Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're unpacking the incredibly fascinating and, honestly, kind of chaotic journey of Steve Jobs, but we're doing it through a very specific lens. We're going to look at his life as a masterclass in finding your direction. We're distilling a really compelling explainer based on a video from the channel Seekin and treating it as a case study to help you find absolute clarity on your own path.
So let me ask you something directly. Are you feeling confused about your path in life? Do you have, multiple interests pulling you in a dozen different directions? Does feeling like you could do a little bit of everything leave you just completely overwhelmed, paralyzed, and totally unsure of which road to take? Well, if you're nodding your head right now, trust me, you are absolutely not alone. Today's case study is actually going to give us a framework to find the exact clarity you need to do something truly meaningful.
All right, Section 1, the confused genius.
To really start unpacking this, we need to look at the early life of someone we usually associate with, absolute laser focus, and see how his seemingly random, disconnected interests actually built an incredibly powerful foundation. Because Steve Jobs' early life, it was far from a straight line. Way back in 1955, he was born to a young college student who faced massive societal pressure to put him up for adoption. But she had this one strict condition. His adoptive parents had to be highly educated to guarantee him a bright future. Well, after a lawyer couple backed out at literally the last minute because they decided they wanted a girl, Jobs ended up with Paul and Clara Jobs. Now, they weren't highly educated. Actually, Paul was a high school dropout, but they made a firm promise to send Steve to college someday. So growing up, Paul, who worked as a mechanic, taught Steve how to tinker with car parts and machines in their family garage, and he instilled this vital lesson: even the unseen parts of a machine absolutely must be perfect for it to work. That right there sparked a massive curiosity in electronics for Steve. Fast forward to high school, and this kid was so confident that when he needed a specific part for a project, he simply picked up the phone, called tech billionaire Bill Hewitt directly, and not only got the part, but scored a summer internship. Wild, right? Then came college. To fulfill their promise, his parents spent their entire life savings to send him to the really expensive Reed College. But Jobs felt super guilty wasting all their money on something he wasn't even interested in, so he just dropped out. By 1974, he was off taking a deeply spiritual trip to India. Talk about a chaotic start.
Which brings us to Section 2, connecting the random dots. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how Jobs completely abandoned traditional paths. He essentially traded what society expected of him for what his own sheer curiosity demanded. On one side, you have this mindset of following the system. Staying in an expensive college just to get a piece of paper because it's what everyone expects you to do. But on the other side, you have following self-interest. See, when Jobs dropped out of college, he didn't stop learning at all. He literally just stopped taking the classes that bored him to tears. Instead, he dropped in on a calligraphy class purely because he found it beautiful. He learned all about typography, fonts, spacing, with absolutely zero idea how it would ever be useful to him. He also started exploring Zen thinking and meditation. And let's be clear, this path was not glamorous. Following his self-interest meant sleeping on his friends' floors, returning glass bottles just to get 5 cents for food money, and walking miles across town just to get one good solid meal a week at a local temple. But through it all, he consistently asked himself tough questions to find his clarity.
And the outcome of embracing all those varied, seemingly random interests? Well, it was Apple. Jobs reconnected with his friend Steve Wozniak, who was this brilliant engineer who had designed a personal computer. Jobs saw the massive opportunity there, combined it with his own unique perspectives on design and usability, and from a tiny garage project, the two of them built Apple into a massive billion-dollar company in just a few short years.
And this brilliantly illustrates one of Jobs' most famous quotes: "You cannot connect the dots looking forward." You see, when Jobs and Wozniak were building that first Macintosh, Jobs didn't just want to build a clunky piece of technology. He wanted beauty, he wanted simplicity, he wanted elegant design. So he reached back to that completely random calligraphy class he took years prior, and he built those beautiful fonts and typography directly into the Mac. All those random dots, the garage tinkering with his dad, the Zen simplicity, the calligraphy, suddenly they all connected to create something the world had quite literally never seen before.
Moving on to Section 3, failure and rebirth. Because success is almost never a straight line, right? There was a pretty devastating climax in Jobs' career, getting fired from his very own company. As Apple grew, Jobs hired a seasoned CEO to help run things, but their visions totally clashed, and in a shocking move, the board of directors actually fired Jobs. He lost the very thing he had poured his blood, sweat, and tears into. It was his whole identity. He was absolutely crushed. But, and here's the key, he totally refused to give up his passion for creating. He completely shifted his mindset, seeing this not as a total failure, but as a release from the intense, heavy pressure of running Apple. He was finally free to innovate again. So he founded a brand new company called Next, building incredibly high-end computers.
He also took a huge risk and bought this small graphics company that eventually became Pixar, which, as we know, triumphantly went on to create the world's first fully computer-animated film, Toy Story. And the ultimate twist in the story, Apple eventually struggled so much without him that they ended up buying Next in 1997, bringing Jobs back in a massive victory. And those incredible technologies he developed over at Next, they became the direct foundation for the iMac, the iPhone, and the iPad.
Section 4. 3 Lessons for Clarity. So, the crucial point is, what can we actually learn from all of this? The source outlines 3 very specific, actionable lessons derived from Jobs' journey to help you find your own clarity. But before we get to those 3 lessons, there is a really powerful question you need to hear. Later in life, as you might know, Jobs was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer. Facing his mortality, he started asking himself this question every single morning in the mirror. If today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I am about to do today? And whenever the answer was no for too many days in a row, he knew he absolutely had to change something. The explainer highlights this as the exact question you should ask yourself to filter out all the daily noise and really zero in on your true direction.
Based on all this, here are the 3 core lessons the video gives us to take away. First, recognize that clarity comes from action, not thinking. Just sitting around overthinking or mindlessly scrolling through videos and reels, that's never going to give you direction. You actually have to do things. Second, follow your passion. When you follow your heart, you create things with a level of dedication that others simply cannot match. And finally, combine those interests to create uniqueness. Just like Jobs combined technology, design, and spirituality, your diverse interests aren't a distraction at all. They're actually the exact ingredients for your unique advantage in the world.
Finally, Section 5. Taking action today. Inspiration is great, sure, but we need a structured framework for putting these lessons into immediate practice. So, how do we actually get there? Well, the source creator has a 4-step path to finding personal clarity. Step 1 is pretty straightforward. Stop the mindless scrolling. Just stop wasting time on things that aren't pushing you toward your goals. Step 2 is to read or listen to specific self-help books to actively gain new mindsets. Step 3 is to use the knowledge from those books to ask yourself those really tough, probing questions about what you actually want out of life. And step 4 is absolutely crucial. Apply this knowledge practically. Ideally, you do this alongside a community of like-minded people, rather than just passively consuming it by yourself.
Now, to help formulate those tough questions, the creator highly recommends 2 specific books. First is The Passion Test, which is essentially designed to help you zero in on what truly drives you. The second is the absolute classic, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, specifically focusing on that famous habit of beginning with the end in mind. Because keeping the end goal in sight is exactly how you start making clear, directional choices today. To help facilitate this learning, the original creator of this video actually pitches their own platform. It's an app called the Summary Board, available for a subscription of 99 Indian rupees a month. Basically, this app provides summaries of 70 curated books, including the 2 we just mentioned. They also host a 21-day live challenge on Zoom, which is limited to the first 500 participants, where users meditate, discuss the books, and apply the lessons together. Interestingly, past participants have apparently donated extra funds, which are now being used to offer free access to this program for anyone who genuinely cannot afford the 99 rupee fee, emphasizing this whole philosophy of teaching people how to fish for themselves.
So we've seen how Steve Jobs took his scattered interests, embraced total failure, and connected his unique dots to literally change the world. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want you to look at your own life and ask yourself, which dot will you connect next?